Well, it is officially underway, the trial of the former CEO of SafeMoon, John Karony, and it is not looking so great according to what I'm seeing. But I want to share with you guys some details, get your opinion on this, and we'll see how things continue to progress. But here's what I was able to gather as far as the first day of the trial. So, you guys should go check out David Z. Morris or follow at Protos if you're wanting to get the latest updates, what's been happening with this trial. It's expected that this should run about 2 weeks or so. And to start things off, John Karony, in case you guys didn't know, he did not hire his own attorney. It was apparently appointed to him because he can't afford it. So there's that. In addition, you have Thomas Smith, aka Papa. He testified, and that's some interesting information that came from him. And then the parents of John Karony are believed to have been in attendance at this, and their reaction was a little bit surprising. Okay, so first thing I want to point out is that David Z. Morris actually said that John Karony at one point came up to him and another reporter. This is while they were on recess, and he was telling the reporters, "Thanks for covering his criminal trial." And David points out here that he's never had that happen to either one of them, and that's in all the years of trial coverage. So it's definitely an unusual thing to do. I mentioned in my previous video, I have personal suspicions that this is trying to get more influence on the court of public opinion, anything that might potentially help him in winning his case. But that's my own personal opinion. I can't prove any of that stuff. It's just pure speculation. I want to make that really clear. At the end of the day, the evidence that's being presented to the court and what the jury, what their verdict comes down as, that is going to be the most decisive set of factors, right? So, just a little interesting observation here. And it started off with some drama and disbelief. There was a victim who testified that they lost $20,000, which is really, really sad to hear. I myself, because I really believed everything that was going on, I lost over $100,000. I'd have to go back and look at the specifics of it, but I think it was around maybe 120 to $145,000, which is not a small chunk of change. And $20,000 is not a small chunk of change, right? And there's a lot of other people that lost money, and it's all relative to what people's lifestyles are, right? So, in addition to this, the prosecution's star witness was the ex CTO, the chief technology officer. That's Thomas, aka Papa Smith. He took the stand early, having already pleaded guilty to similar charges. So, I want to point out that John Karony keeps claiming online that he is innocent. And the way it works, right, is that he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I just want to make it clear, John Karony keeps saying that he is innocent, repeatedly saying this online. But Thomas Smith has already pled guilty to the charges. He's trying to get a reduced sentence. And so with this, we also see, plus get this, apparently there are loyal fans that are showing up wearing SafeMoon gear at this trial. Now, I don't know, maybe they're trolling, right? But based on what I see over on social media, I have a feeling that there are people that are genuinely wearing the gear that show support for John Crony, that believe that he's innocent, and feel that they just want to see him come out on top on this, right? But we'll have to see how the trial continues. Now, some other information. The parents of John Crony, if it was really them that showed up, because again, it's a bit of speculation, but it's believed that it was likely them. Apparently, they were towards the front and they were very composed in how they were handling themselves, like in comparison to what was going on with the parents of Sam Bankman Fried in his trial, where I guess they were being much more having a lot more outbursts, but John Crony's parents seemed very subdued. It seemed like they were giving a little bit of reactions, almost like skepticism on some of the witness testimony. And just overall, it looks like the composure of his parents are holding up really well. But the trial itself just began. Now, as far as for Thomas Smith goes, he is apparently putting all of the blame on John Karony. He's saying that he is the lead man. He is the one that was the decider in different factors. And in addition to that, Thomas Smith thought that he owned 10% of basically a parent company, only to later find out that that was a lie, that he does not own that. He's not receiving funds from that, from John Karony. However, he did get paid out through several other different ways, right? Or another way. Now, here we have a post from Samuel Rubenfeld, and they say the defense lawyer for the former SafeMoon chief executive on trial for fraud and money laundering conspiracy challenged the government's star cooperator today over claims he and the firm made about a liquidity pool associated with the firm's eponymous token. The defense lawyer for the former SafeMoon chief executive on trial for fraud and money laundering conspiracy challenged that, and this is associated with the token, right? This whole trial really seems to stem from the fact of saying that the liquidity pool was locked and then it wasn't locked. And apparently, the big argument that's being said so far is that it was on the fault of the investors, that we didn't look into the blockchain enough, pay attention enough, and we didn't notice what was going on. And we voluntarily continue to participate even with such actions taking place. That's what it appears to be taking place here. And that is a bizarre argument in my point of view, but they have to have some kind of an argument, right? Now, as far as for Thomas Smith, as soon as I start asking you to trust me, you shouldn't. That was Thomas Papa Smith's pithy summation today of the fundamentally fraudulent nature of SafeMoon, a DeFi protocol whose centralized contract features allowed a core team to extract tens of millions of dollars from liquidity pools it had represented as sacrosanct. Smith testified for the third consecutive day in the trial of John Karony, former SafeMoon CEO. All right. This is a recap of the last several days. I should actually make that clear. In addition, we have this, which is coming from David B. Smith. Here you can see it says, Dear Judge Committee, Karony moves the court with respect to two matters. Number one, the admission into evidence of the original SafeMoon wallet and white paper under the co-conspirator statement rule. And number two, a jury instruction on puffery, given the government's introduction into evidence of vague SafeMoon website and white paper statements unalleged in the indictment. The government has moved the court to introduce the original SafeMoon website, GX8000, and the white paper, GX8002, as an opposing party's statement under the co-conspirator statements rule. But a co-conspirator statement must be made by the party's co-conspirator during and in furtherance of the conspiracy. Thus, such statements cannot be made after the cessation of the conspiracy or before its formation. It goes on to say that Karony has found no support for an argument, not offered by the government, that a statement made before a conspiracy's formation can still be made during the conspiracy, if it is a statement posted online which parties later adopt after forming an alleged conspiracy. Here, there is no evidence that Kyle Nagy conspired with anyone to make the statements in the original SafeMoon website and white paper, and no evidence of a conspiracy at any point in time. Therefore, the court should not admit GX8000 and GX8002. Separately, Karony moves the court for a jury instruction on puffery in light of statements the government has introduced from the SafeMoon website, white paper, and elsewhere, which are not alleged in the indictment. Through the testimony of Thomas Smith, the government has introduced website, white paper, and MA statements that SafeMoon is, quote, safe and not a scam and not a rug pull. None of these statements is alleged as a false representation in the indictment, and Karony received no notice that he would have to defend against them. In any case, such statements are non-actionable puffery under the securities fraud and wire fraud statutes. Broad statements of optimism are non-actionable puffery. Unlike specific factual statements, vague descriptions that offer only generally optimistic opinions are not actionable under the section rules. In addition to that, a speaker engages in puffery when he makes vague positive statements regarding a corporate entity's risk management strategy, asset quality, and business practices. Statements that a product is a safe investment are generally considered not actionable statements of fact, but mere opinion and puffery. And then it wraps things up here. To the extent the court allows these statements to go to the jury, despite not being alleged as part of the charge scheme to which Karony objects, Karony requests a puffery instruction. In a case in which the defense was that the misrepresentation was mere puffery, however, the defendant would be entitled to an instruction putting this defense before the jury, provided, of course, that there was some evidence to support the defense. Now, I want to know what you guys think about this. Please share your thoughts with us down in the comments below. That's what I've got for you in the latest video. In addition to that, you can check out this crypto exchange called BTCC. I do have a link to that down in the description below. There are some really cool benefits to this platform. For example, there is no VPN or KYC needed to get started. It's been around for 13 years. You get access to over 300 different cryptocurrencies, up to 500x leverage, and there's a 10% deposit bonus when you use my referral link down in the description below. And you can get bonuses all the way up to $10,055. So again, that link is down in the description. And also, feel free to check me out on Blue Sky at Crypto Atlas. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, my Patreon supporters, as well as my YouTube members. God bless, and we'll see you in the next episode.